No. Molon la vez. It means come and get it.
Oh. Check the exams.
The spot is so you want something from me? Come and get it. Molon la vez.
Thank you. Sí, como
Oh, no, that's why people were like, oh, what's people were approaching me. I'm like,
La candidata, la candidata. Sí, tengo esa, ya hablaremos.
Well, the good news and bad news. There is no right way, which means that you have some flexibility to decide what you want to do. That also means that there isn't a clear answer that I can give you of the perfect path. I would really recommend making an appointment if you haven't already with the LLM career advisor. Do you know his name? Dean Solorio? Let me see if I can find his name. But he will give you really good information, which I think is Have you met with anyone yet, or is this your first foray into orientation?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, what was the name of
He's really nice. Yeah, and you should have a conversation with him about Yeah. That's what I was But have a conversation with him to see if there's a conversation. And if not, you can figure out if there's
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Andrew, sorry.
And then I already know you guys.
Are you finished, Rosa?
I am. I'm so sorry.
All of it.
Exactly.
Oh, she said she's.
Yeah, I guess so. It is great to see all of you assembled. I've been in touch with so many of you from all different corners of the world, and so nice when we're all assembled in one place, and really excited to begin working with all of you. I wanted to start with some introductions. I'm Dean Abaid, for those of you who haven't met me. and I'm the Assistant Dean for Environmental Law Studies. And my counterpart, Dean Svensson, is here, who is our Assistant Dean for Energy Law. And many of you will be working in the Energy Law program as well, and we're going to talk about that course selection advice soon in terms of energy and environmental law. Courses work well together, regardless of whether you're in a track that's called energy and environment. We encourage you to take courses from both fields. They're very complementary. And then we have Professor Gismondi here as our environmental law fellow. Just joined us in March, and she is going to be teaching human rights and environmental protection in the fall, which is a paper class. So we'll be talking a bit more about the courses and which courses are research paper and which are exam, and some more strategic considerations about balancing your workload from one semester to the next. And also, for those of you who do plan to take the New York bar, we're also going to be advising you on that, which is a little bit of a tricky issue for those of you who are seeking to pursue 2 of our 4 LLM tracks, because it's essentially impossible to fulfill all the requirements in energy and environmental law or government procurement and environmental law and be taking the courses you need for the New York bar. So we have those 2 other tracks that are absolutely available to you. And when you think about that, that's not necessarily a limitation of our program. Think of it as an advantage. Many students who come to the US to sit for the New York bar are in a general LLM program. They're just taking nothing but general US law courses. They're not able to get a degree that is specialized to your interest in a particular topic. So we offer that opportunity to get an LLM in environmental law or an LLM in international environmental law, and still be able to use some of those credits to also serve your needs to prepare for the New York bar. So, brought a bag of goodies, so please pass it around. We've got program pens and pins, not to be confused. So you can flash your branding for everyone else in the building, environmental and energy law, pens and pins. We have a 50th anniversary lapel pin that you should wear proudly. We are now in our 54th year of the program. These are from 2020. We are also excited to go in some new directions in these past few years in terms of what we're offering to better meet the needs of everyone's interests in your studies with us. We do have another valued member of our program, an affiliated member, if you will, who's passing her business card around now. Jermaine Leahy is with us, and we want you to make sure that whether you're writing a paper, well, all of you are writing a paper sooner or later this year, so you absolutely want to be in touch with Ms. Leahy in terms of accessing library resources. She is our environmental and energy law reference librarian, which means she is indispensable when you are trying to research your papers on environmental and or energy law this year. So I want to give her a few minutes to introduce herself and let her know what services are available, and encourage you to take full advantage of our outstanding library staff and resources, especially Jermaine.
Thank you. I'll just take a few minutes. Jermaine Leahy, and I'm hoping that to put together an orientation for you guys, a hands-on of library services and the tools, some of our research tools in the energy and environment area. So I'm asking, I don't know, do you have their email addresses? Do you have a list?
Yeah, I have
Okay.
a sheet that you can borrow. It's maybe what I have right now.
I could make a copy of it.
Yeah, I
I'll
can
just,
email it to you.
Yeah, just email it to me. And what I'll try and do is set up some sessions. I'd like to do hands-on in person, but I can do a couple Zoom sessions if that works. Once you get your classes fixed, then we can work together on the dates and times. I'm very flexible. My work schedule is Tuesday through Saturday, so I'm not in the office on Mondays. But students have really found this valuable in the past. And then I'm also available for follow-up in-person sessions as you're working on your individual papers or whatever, or just have general questions. The library has chargers for your phones and laptops that you can take out of the library. Just, that's kind of a basic need that I found for all students. But doing these sessions is really important, I think, to give you a good foundation as to what we have available and how to just find things basic.
Thank you so much, Jermaine. And we are so grateful for your support. I've taught one seminar 2 years ago. I'm about to teach another one, which is considerably larger than the one 2 years ago. So even more so, Jermaine services are so important, especially in that first month of the semester where you're actively trying to access resources that are going to help you shape what your topic is and make sure that things are fitting together with what your paper is going to cover. Those weeks are essential. You're going to be busy in the first 3 or 4 weeks of the semester. So I want to start by just having each of you introduce yourself so I can hear the correct pronunciation of your name. We aren't going to guarantee we're going to get it right on the second try, but so you get to be aware of each other and just identify what country you're from, because we have a mini UN here and we love that. It's so valuable for our program to have all the perspectives from countries around the world, and for the classroom dynamic in particular. I really enjoyed having LLMs enrich the discussion. I taught an environmental law class, an introduction to environmental law, last fall. Had 79 students, 12 of whom were LLMs, and I think of those 12, maybe 6 were outside the US, and they just were so valuable for that discussion. When you're talking about understanding US law and US environmental law concepts, having someone from Ecuador and Georgia and Uganda and Argentina in the room to share, compare and contrast perspectives is incredibly valuable for everybody in that learning community. So we're delighted to have all of you here and really excited to work with you. So let's start with Tanya.
Hello everyone, my name is Tanya Agrawal. I am from India and I'm very excited to be here and learn from Professor Abhi.
Good afternoon everyone, my name is Byron Sequeira. I'm from India and I'm an attorney at my home country. I practiced for around 4.5 years. I practiced arbitration, environmental law, civil litigation. I have a diverse verse of practice areas, and I share some common interest with Dean Abhi, apart from the subject as well. I run marathon, I run half marathon. Yep.
Dean Svensson too.
Nice to meet everyone, and hope we have an exciting year ahead.
Thank you so much, Byron.
Hello, nice to meet you. My name is Thais. I'm from Brazil. Actually from Brasilia, the capital of Brazil. And I have experienced working with solid waste management plants and also doing like energy stuffs, like basically producing energy from solid waste management. This is it. Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Laura Serna. I'm from Colombia. I have been working in climate justice, environmental democracy, and human rights. It's a pleasure to meet you all.
Hi everyone, my name is Tehani. I'm from Costa Rica. And yeah, I haven't really worked like in something specific in energy or environmental, but somehow that that is always involved in every project. I have worked in transactional law, so it's always involved somehow. But I'm finally pursuing my passion for environmental energy, so I'm very excited to learn about all of you who have had experience before it, and from you, obviously.
Thank you. And you're currently at the Inter-American Development
Yeah, I'm
Bank?
currently working at IDB Invest. That's a development bank for Latin America and the Caribbean, and I'm working at the legal department in process improvement, legal process improvement, and legal documentation management. So, yes.
Hi, I'm Kobe Boateng from Ghana, and it's very nice to meet you.
Hi everyone, it's Elif. I'm from Turkey and I'm practicing law and sustainability for almost 3 years. And I'm more into climate finance, and really great to meet
Abdul Kamara from Sierra Leone, West Africa. Practiced law for 15 years, called to the bar in 2009, October 31st. Part of my practice has been representing land-owning families as they deal with mining companies out there. Thank you very much, and I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. Welcome. And you're actually listed as International Environmental Law track? Yes? Excellent.
Hi everyone, I'm Zeyna, I'm from Turkey. I mostly worked on electricity, oil and gas law in Turkey, and I studied mostly international investment arbitration. It's nice to meet you all.
Hello everyone, my name is Bilgun, I'm from Mongolia, and in Mongolia there are laws about wildlife and environment, of course, but there were no laws about pets, like no legislation about pets, and I worked in the Parliament and the Ministry of Justice and Home Affairs. The member of Parliament that I worked for was the one who initiated the first ever law on pets, so I was one of the main authors who worked on the law on pets. Professionally, that's the only thing I did relating to environment, and I'm excited to be in this sector.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your last name.
Bilgun idea.
Ah, yes, thank you. And interesting that you have the background in what we would call animal law, because we have an outstanding animal law program here at GW. I do some work in animal law, but we have an outstanding program in Dean who can be a great resource for you, Dean Hessler. So I'll be able to tell you more about that.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Nusim from Kenya, Africa. I run a non-profit for human rights, and I've not really done anything in environmental law, but most of these issues intertwine, so I said I do something about it. I'm an attorney in my country for the last 3 years.
So Stephanie, are you just joining us? Because I didn't see your name on my list, because I remember Andrew saying someone named Stephanie was deciding to join our program. That's you.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm delighted to have you join us, and I've been to Kenya twice, so I'm eager to hear more about your background there. And your last name is spelled?
Nosim.
N?
Nosim, N-O-S-I-M.
Got it, thank you. Yes.
Hello everyone, I'm Ecem, I'm from Turkey. I have experience mining law and environmental impact assessment as a lawyer for 1 year. Nice to meet you all. I'm very excited.
Benedicta?
Hi everyone, I'm Benedicta Osei-Boateng. I'm from Ghana. This is my second semester doing energy and environmental here in GW. Welcome everybody. I can assure you that you'll have a great time, whether you've had experience in energy and environmental or not. The faculty is great and very supportive. I hope to see everybody.
Thank you so much. And Benedicta is a wonderful resource for all of you, having already been through a semester here, knows her way around the building probably better than I do. It's just my 3rd year, so she was giving tours to new students today after 1 semester. That shows you what a fast learner she is on many levels. And she can give you lots of good advice about courses and professors based on her 1st semester. Hopefully she won't tell you to avoid my class, but no, she hasn't had me in class yet, so that's good. So we are, I don't want you to get the sense that we're a program divided in terms of our non-US and our US counterparts, because we divide these orientation sessions because there are different requirements that pertain to whether you're a US LLM or a non-US LLM. So we have a separate orientation with our US LLM students in the program next Friday, but they are very much part of your program. They are taking the classes with you, and they are very much pursuing the same degrees that you are. One of those 4 tracks in our program, the environmental, the international environmental, the energy and environmental, the government procurement and environmental. So I hope you get to meet them and work with them very soon and often. And I'm hoping we can plan some kind of informal event where all of you can network somewhat early in the semester, so that we can build those relationships sooner than later. So today's format is really very much informal. It's more about making sure that you're getting the information you need to move forward with your course selections and to think about what you want to get out of this 1 year. It's going to be a very fast and busy year for all of you, so it's very important to be strategic and get the information you need as far in advance as possible so you're able to get the most out of your time here. So Dean Svensson is very new, starting in June of this year, and I just started 2 years ago, so in many ways we're trying to get as far ahead of things as we can, what we can anticipate this year based upon what's been observed over the past couple of years, and since I've been here, and Professor Gismondi's only been here since March, so you have that fresh enthusiasm for sure across the three of us, and to the extent you don't have that we've been at GW since birth experience, we are determined to make up for that with our enthusiasm to deliver what we can to make sure you have a great experience, and of course we have vast experience from other law schools and other career paths prior to coming to GW. So we're happy to be resources for you. One thing just logistically about choosing your courses. So has anyone not registered yet? You should have all been able to register for the fall courses, right? So the registration process is not over. And that's good news for many of you because some of you tried to register for courses and the course was full. So don't lose hope. If you're very interested in getting into a course that you saw was full, my advice to you would be attend that first class of that course, if you're able to with your schedule. And make the professor aware of your interest, even perhaps before attending the class, make the professor aware of your interest in taking that class. And then see what happens with drop-add period, because one of the values of GW is that you're in classes with JD students, and JD students will be dropping and adding their classes for an entire week once that first week of class starts, the week of August 26th. So that's the good news. There may be seats that become available for you to step into. The bad news is that our registration system does not establish wait lists for classes. So that means you have to work harder. You have to continually look at the registration system to see if a spot has opened up. You're not going to be automatically put into the class when that seat becomes available because you were the first on the wait list. We don't have wait lists in our registration system. So be aware of that. That's your first piece of strategy about getting the most out of this program. You want to make sure you're able to get into the courses you want, and you shouldn't give up based on your initial registration efforts that you've done so far. Another piece of advice I would add is we have another really exciting new development. We're offering internships for credit for LLM students for the first time this year. So you chose a great year to join us. We were kind of losing out on our competitive edge against schools like Georgetown that did offer that for many years, and students in our program, the LLM students, could not do internships for credits. We call them field placements for credits. Now you can, which is really exciting news. Environmental energy law placements here in DC, probably the best city in the world to study environmental and energy law. It's all right here. And GW's location is particularly well suited to walk to most of the places where you might want to intern. So you've probably heard this already in other sessions of your orientation, but we discourage you from interning in your fall semester. Much more productive to do it in the spring. Why? Because all of you'll be going through a lot of adjustments in the fall. You'll be taking a heavy class load. You want to focus on succeeding in those classes and then building that knowledge base and skill set in your fall semester classes so that you're much better prepared to really do the best possible job, get the best possible experience in a spring internship. So be thinking about that as you're filling out your 1 year plan in terms of what credits you're going to be taking. You get credits for those. Sometimes you can go for an option that's 0 credit, but you can still list that experience on your resume if you don't have the space in your credit allocation to take it for credit. You can still take it for no credit and be able to list it as a position you held. So Fahed, who is someone who is in charge of that program, he will have a very detailed memo for us, I'm told, within the next week or so about the internship program. Because it's brand new, I'm still learning exactly what it entails for LLMs, but you will have that information very soon. Dean Svensson, anything on the energy law side that you'd like to add in terms of curricular advice and placement opportunities here?
Choose energy law more than environmental law subjects if you can. But we'll also do these energy events, probably one a month, and we'll team up with law firms in town. So you might want to just keep your eye out for those emails. The first one is September 26th. It's at Bracewell's office here in town, so it's a good way if you don't know that many law firms or other ways of doing internships to go to one of those events and listen to what's going on, and then also just talk to the lawyers that work there. The event on the 26th will be about LNG, so we'll have a professor and the head of the energy department at the University of Oslo. She's coming. There's an analyst in charge of global LNG from a London analyst company coming in, and the Bracewell lawyer will talk about the US LNG market and the potential impacts of the election on that market. And then we'll have the director of the Energy Center at LSU, who is in a state university, coming in and talking about CCS in the middle of October. We talked to the Norwegian ambassador about coming in November, talking about the European gas market, since Norway is the biggest exporter of gas to the EU right now. And then we're seeing if we can get somebody from Germany to come, since they're the biggest buyer, and we have the biggest seller and the biggest buyer. And that will be an interesting discussion to see how they like each other right now, considering the prices. But yeah, so we'll try to do that one event a month. So just invite you to come join.
Yeah, and that's something I also wanted to stress. Our events are a fantastic resource for all of you, not just to develop your knowledge base on very relevant issues in environmental and energy law, but it's a great networking tool. We're bringing lots of very high-profile scholars and practitioners and other experts to campus to speak at these events, and it's just a great opportunity for you to connect with them while they're here and express your interest, ask them questions. It's all part of the out-of-class learning component, not just the internships or field placements, but just that opportunity to attend so many events. You saw the newsletter that I circulated to all of you. We have a lot of really exciting events coming up this fall that will be really important for you to be able to attend and learn and network. One thing you should realize about the value of being at GW is that we are part of a much larger campus community. And so we do a lot of partnering with schools outside the law school, which is great for all of us. I mean, if you're anything like me, you don't have expertise in 5 different disciplines, even though it might help you to be an expert in science and engineering and economics when you're an environmental lawyer. I brought a philosophy major background into pursuing environmental law, and that's it. I'm trained as a lawyer, I'm trained as an environmental lawyer, and that's my area of expertise. But the more I got into my career, the more I realized, geez, I really need to collaborate with people outside the field. I need that understanding, especially in the field like climate change, which is really my subspecialty within environmental law, the science, the economics, the engineering, the business dimensions. It's all so important, and they're all right here on campus. So we invite them, we partner with them on our events, and that's a huge advantage. I've taught at many law schools in the US where it was just one building. It was the law school. There was no campus, no other graduate schools surrounding us and partnering with us, so that's a huge advantage. Another thing I would say about the advantage of course, being in DC is doing those networking opportunities outside the building. I said the events are really valuable for networking, but you should be very ambitious about joining organizations that will allow you to meet people that are relevant to develop your career aspirations. So they're all right here. And so there are a lot of organizations that you should be aware of that are involved in hosting networking events, putting on conferences and so forth. So a couple of resources I would mention to you right off the bat. Within the law school, we have an organization called, the acronym is ELA, Environment and Energy Law Student Association. I encourage you to join this organization and be on their distribution list. They send out a weekly newsletter that is full of great information. There's job opportunities, there's upcoming events, both at the law school and outside the law school. And they are a great resource of helping you get acquainted with your life at GW Law for your year here. So I really encourage you to join that student org here. And then outside the law school, the Environmental Law Institute is one that I highly recommend for environmental law exposure. They are doing all kinds of events. Some are webinars, some are in person, some are networking, some are awards, dinners, all kinds of opportunities to meet a variety of people doing environmental law. On the energy law side?
Energy Bar Association, it's a good one. They have free registration for students. They do stuff online and they do stuff in person. So it just depends what you like. And then also in that unofficial guide, there's a list of law firms in the back. But you can just kind of pay attention to the law firms that are.
I know Stephanie needs one of these. Anyone else need a copy of the unofficial guide?
You also have a list of the classes that are taught in the spring and the fall. And they're also listed according to discipline, whether it's environmental or energy. So you can look at it and see which classes you would like to take if you haven't signed up for all of them yet. There is also other classes that could be interesting. I was looking at the list for the LLM in International and Comparative Law, and they have a concentration for arbitration, for example. I know a couple of you have been talking about arbitration, where there is international arbitration as a class, international investment law and arbitration as a class. That would be very interesting from an energy perspective. There's a commercial arbitration as a class, and international business transactions seminar that could be interesting. So I'm sure there are other classes out there too, but those ones would be very interesting from an energy perspective.
What else as far as gearing up for the year? So, New York Bar requirements. So, those of you who plan to take the New York Bar, remember that we have these 4 tracks, and it's environments, international environments, energy and environments, and government procurement and environment.
You can't get away from the environment.
Of those 4, you can get a degree in our program, an LLM in environmental law or international environmental law, and fulfill what you need to take the New York Bar. Why are you able to do that? Because there are 2 courses that are relevant for these 2 degrees, and you get to double dip and use those for your bar prep as well. So that's not possible with these 2. Torts and property is not relevant for fulfilling the requirements of these 2 because you've got 2 fields that have requirements in these 2 degrees, and there's just not enough space to be able to get the credits you need for the New York Bar and be able to fulfill the requirements of 2 fields within these degrees. So some of you, with that knowledge now, have decided not to take the New York Bar, and others of you might have to jump from one of these into one of these if you plan to take the New York Bar. So not surprisingly, these 2 tracks are very popular with our US LLM students because they don't have to worry about the New York Bar. They're already bar admitted lawyers in the US. But for international students, it's really these 2. And you want to think about that as a benefit. You're getting much more than just a general LLM and being able to sit for the New York Bar. You're getting something that you can show on your resume as a specialized degree in these fields, and you're still able to take courses that interest you. if you take one of these two tracks, you're still able to take energy law courses as part of your overall 24 credits. You're just not going to get that label of energy and environment if you're also studying to fulfill those New York bar requirements. So, any questions about that? We don't want you to go forward with any kind of lingering confusion about what that means for your plan of action with your courses. Any questions about that? No. Okay. What else?
I don't have a question about that, but I have a question about something else. Is that they showed us Canvas, and I was checking one of the courses, specifically atomic energy law,
Yeah.
and it said something about Tour research reactors. So I wanted to know if this was, well, I don't know if you know that, but if this is a tour, like I wanted to know more information about that. But that it comes up as an assignment, but it's optional.
So you said a tour of an energy reactor?
It says tour research reactor.
That'd be
I'm
great.
hoping that's what it means, but.
I'll have to ask the professor.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, in those kinds of instances, it's best to email the professor. We can provide the professor's email if you're not able to access that. And the professor is always best positioned rather than us.
Do you have this email, the professor?
I think Canvas is probably available. I haven't checked it
But
particularly.
ask us, because we have it for sure.
But if you don't find it, email me.
Thank you. And then in that specific course, I can see the syllabus, and for the first class, that's on Monday 26th, it
Yes.
says that there's already a lecture assignment. So I just wanted to double check that that's something that it's, because I'm still figuring out how to get the textbooks and everything, so I just wanted to.
Glad you mentioned that. So with the textbooks, you will not be the only ones. The JDs have this problem too. Sometimes the textbooks are not available in time for the first week of class. The professors understand that better than anybody. It's very rare that a professor will be very kind of aggressive, for lack of a better term, in expecting you to know something on the first day of class when there might have been an issue with the textbooks being available in time. So what you will see, in most cases, there will be photocopied readings of what was in that book on your Canvas page. So always look for that. Most professors will do that. So even though many of students might have the physical copy of the book, some might still not have accessed it in time, and they're able to go to the Canvas page and read the assignment in a PDF form.
Okay. And regarding the other textbooks for the other classes, is it usual that like the professors can guide you to like towards where to buy those textbooks, or is it like?
I would not rely on professors in terms of, I would rely on students. So professors, I mean, I've become much more sensitive to this. I've been teaching for 3 decades. And within the past 10 years, the price of books has gone through the roof. It's insane how expensive law books are. And it's especially burdensome for students who come to the US to study from outside the US. Those costs are insane. So there are a lot of ways around paying the full price for a brand new law text. And a lot of times students will be able to access, to direct you to accessing used copies. You just have to make sure you have the right edition. That's always important. But used copies of a particular book that is being offered in the bookstore as a new book, you could get it for half or even less than that price online or through other sources. Sometimes students are informally selling their books that they used last year, and you're able to save money that way. So the professor is not usually a very helpful resource that way in terms of getting you to help you save money on your texts. And then a lot of information you'll find in your courses will be on a Canvas page, and it will be publicly accessible information that you don't have to pay for. So it varies from course to course. I would say there's a trend now away from using traditional law textbooks for courses, and it's more of a compilation of materials from publicly available sources that will be on your Canvas page. So be thinking that way. You always should be looking to save money. Don't feel like you're disadvantaged by having a used copy of a book instead of a brand new one, as long as it's not completely abused with writing on every page, it's something you should really be looking to save money if you can.
The library also puts, if the faculty member requests it, we will put copies of course material on reserve, your textbooks and so on. So there should be an indication that it is available in the library on course reserve.
Yes, and that's really valuable too. I mean, I was never a library studier, but for people who are, many instances you can just be accessing your books in the library if they're on reserve and do your preparing for class that way. I was always one who preferred to write in the book itself and do a lot of my studying from home, so that wasn't something I availed myself up as readily as many other students would. Yeah, another thing about logistics is balancing your workload. So this is really important. So your degrees are 24 credits. That doesn't mean you have to have exactly 12 credits in the fall and 12 credits in the spring. You have to have a combination of semesters that gets you to 24, and you don't want to go too light in one and too heavy on the other. Keep it as close to 12 and 12 as you can with these certain considerations. Many of you will be writing your papers in one or the other semester. I would suggest the semester in which you're writing a paper, that can be the lower credit semester, because a paper class is 2 credits, just like a comparable elective is 2 credits, but you're gonna spend a lot more time with those 2 credits, writing that paper. It's gonna be a heavier workload for you that semester you're writing the paper, so you can give yourself a little bit of a break, maybe carry 11 credits that semester when you have the paper, and then 13 in the semester you don't have the paper. And you should also be thinking about ways of talking to us and talking to professors about the complexity of your workload. So I've been advising some of the environmental students this way, that even though it's important for those of you who like both energy and environmental law, it's important to have those introductory classes in your year with us, the energy law and regulation class, the environmental law survey class. It's not essential that you have both of those in the fall, depending on what else you're taking, because that's a pretty heavy load, those 2 courses together. And some of you are even thinking of adding administrative law in addition to environmental law and energy law and regulation. That's extremely heavy. So I would encourage many of you to postpone administrative law if it makes sense for your course load in terms of what you think you need when. That's a very heavy course, and it's a tough one to have in your first semester. So be thinking about those concerns, talk to the professors, talk to us, get more than one opinion, but you want to avoid that problem of what I would call the log jam of workload, just having too many difficult classes in one semester and then having it very, very easy. Much easier the second semester. Try to balance the credits and balance the workload, and that will really help you have a better experience over the course of the year. So, any questions about the courses you've signed up for or the ones you want to take that you have for us? Yes?
You mentioned writing papers, so is there any significant advantage to writing a thesis?
Glad you asked. I've been spending a lot of time on that issue this year. You're a very special group that way. The general rule on the thesis, the way we advise our students, and again, this is not discriminatory, just like it's not discriminatory that we meet separately with the US LLMs. They have different requirements. But as a student who is coming from outside the US to do a writing project in a US law school, the thesis is incredibly demanding. It's incredibly demanding for me as a law professor with 30 years of experience to write a 25,000 word paper. So I strongly discourage you from having to pursue the thesis requirement unless it's required of you from your government based on what kind of funding you may be getting. If you don't have to do the thesis, I would strongly steer you away from that. we do offer the opportunity to have very writing-intensive experiences in a paper class. So take any of our classes that offer a research paper, and you're going to have to write 8,000 to 10,000 words. That's a significant legal research paper that can get published. That's not something you write in a weekend. That's something you spend the whole semester working on and making sure it's your best effort. So the thesis is something that even my US-trained, only speak English students struggle to complete in 1 year. 15,000 to 25,000 words, that is a huge, huge undertaking. It's a great asset for you if you're confident you can do it, but you would need to talk to the supervisor for your thesis to make sure that this is something that you're going to be able to take on without making yourself and your supervisors miserable, because it is so much work. So much work. So, anything to follow up on that question? Does that?
Just very reassuring to hear that.
Reassuring, I'm glad. I try to be as honest as I can, and it's even better when it comes across as reassuring. Sometimes students who attend my first class will be convinced I'm trying to scare them out of the classroom, but I want you to have the opportunity to make an informed decision for yourself. So on the first day of my class, it's a paper class. I'm going to tell you that I'm going to be your worst nightmare if you're not very good about your schedule. I'm going to demand a lot of thinking and a lot of output every week that you're in the course with me, so that when week 13 comes around, you've got a paper that will need very, very little polishing to be published in a law journal somewhere in this country. So yeah, you're not going to enjoy that every week, but that's the standard I set. Now you have to realize also, and this is not a gross overgeneralization, this is just a function of the reality of time. When you're taking a paper class, some of these paper classes are taught by full-time professors or deans like us and Professor Gismondi, and some of them are taught by part-time adjunct professors. We have fantastic adjunct professors, but you have to think a little bit about the reality of their workload in supervising a paper class. They have full-time day jobs that keep them very busy, and then on top of that, they teach for us once or twice a week, usually once a week in the evening. And that's a very, very demanding addition to an already busy schedule. So when adjuncts teach a paper class, I'm not suggesting that they don't know what they're doing. What I am telling you is that the level of supervision, just by virtue of the number of hours in a day, you will not get the level of supervision from an adjunct professor that you will from a full-time professor if you're working on a research paper. That's just the function of we're full-time and it's our job, and we're going to be here in the office for you to stop by and ask questions. Adjuncts are here once a week. They come in, they teach, they might meet with you briefly before or after class, but they've got a life to get back to. So just be aware of that, because there have been concerns by students who have taken paper classes that, you know, I had a hard time getting the kind of support and feedback I needed to really do the job I wanted to on this paper. And so going in with those expectations, it's important for you to choose wisely. I mean, some of you may not want to be harassed every week by someone like me, and you prefer having an adjunct who will give you more latitude and check in with you once every 5 weeks and see how you're doing on the paper. But it's a very different experience, so you want to know what you're signing up for, and get the experience you're hoping to have.
Is there one more question?
Yeah.
So I was thinking of the newer bar subjects, the ICL courses, like, you know, I was thinking to choose constitutional law.
Mm-hmm.
Can I do so while also, you know, pursuing the international environmental research paper class?
Well, the opportunity to prepare for the New York bar and pursue your international and comparative law degree is dictated by that program's requirements. So that program is likely going to expect you to write a paper as part of your degree requirements, and I assume that writing a paper in my class would fulfill that requirement in the international and comparative law program, but I'm not the expert there. That would be Dean Solorio, who could confirm that for you. So yes, you have to write a paper, and you may as well write it on a topic you're passionate about and interested in, and that you always just want to make sure, is this course going to fulfill that requirement? And you always want to ask your program dean to make sure that that's the case.
One comment about the thesis, since that's been discussed a couple of times, if some of you want to pursue a PhD in law and become an academic in law in your home country, then a lot of your home country institutions will require a thesis to be turned in to apply for a PhD position in your home country.
Yes.
So just keep that in mind.
That's a good point. I mean, I didn't. I have a lot of regrets in how I pursued my education, but one of the big regrets was that I did a joint degree when I was doing my JD. I did a master's to specialize in environmental law, and I did my JD in 3 years. And that diluted the ability that I could have had to really immerse in writing opportunities as a student. So I was taking courses, most of them were exams, and I didn't then do the post-JD LLM experience. And if I had, I really would have pursued the thesis, because that's the opportunity to really spend a year immersed in doing a significant writing project, especially for someone like me, because I wanted to be a law professor. So as Dean Svensson said, if any of you have that aspiration for an academic career, then the thesis matters much more than for the rest of you who are looking to practice environmental or energy law. The thesis doesn't matter nearly as much for you. But of course, if it's a requirement you must fulfill, then that's what we're going to work with. But if not, do the one semester paper, and you'll be just fine. You'll get a great experience. Laura.
For the end of the LLM, we have to complete 2 papers, right?
For which LLM?
Like for the end of, in my case, energy and environmental law is a paper in the first semester and a paper in the second one, and it's just one paper in the whole.
Just one for non-US. That's why we divide the advising session. So for a non-US LLM, it's just one paper or the thesis, but you're choosing not, so one paper.
Okay, I asked because in the legal research and writing class, that is mandatory for international students, there are also the option that the final paper make that as a final paper for the LLM, or is like a...
That's news to me, because my understanding is it would be a traditional research paper, and the legal writing course is more about building skills for research and writing like a lawyer. But the research paper classes, you're writing something that's 8,000 to 10,000 words on a specific topic. The legal writing class is not training you in a particular area of law.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes.
In case we have 2 research papers, can we
If your name is Tanya, yes. So the honest advice that I give is that I want you to push yourselves, but I don't want you to die. So basically, writing 2 papers in 1 semester is something that has been done, and if you're very ambitious and have the skills to support it, you can do that. And so Tanya is going to prove me wrong and show that she can write 2 papers in 1 semester. And the challenge, though, is that different times of the semester will require different kinds of stages of where you are in each paper, and that's, I mean, I've published 3 articles this year, and that was the first time in my career that I published 3 articles in 1 year, and the first thing I will tell you is it was so confusing, because my 3 papers are all about environmentally related issues. And a lot of times I was like, what am I saying in this paper again? So if you've got 2 different papers going on parallel tracks at the same time, there is that genuine problem of keeping them straight. So it's helpful if you're doing 2 papers in a semester to make sure they are distinct topics, and that will help you stay in your lane on each of those. But it's really more the time commitment of having that much work, especially in that first 4 to 6 weeks of the semester where you're actively researching both papers. I would just worry that the courses that you're also taking that you need to keep up with the readings and be prepared for the final exams, just juggling all of that will be challenging, not impossible.
But the word limit requirement for both the papers would be 8,000.
That's correct, minimum 8,000, yes. So I was foolish when I taught my first research paper class here, and I was hung up on that minimum 8,000, but I said, write all you want above 8,000. Oh, that was a mistake. So we have very hardworking, ambitious students like all of you here at GW Law. So I told them it was an 8,000 minimum and just have a ball if you want to write longer. The average paper that I was receiving was 11,000 to 12,000 words. I had 2 at 15,000 words. So most professors will tell you, you must keep your paper within that 8 to 10,000. I'm certainly going to tell you that after my scars are healing. So 8 to 10,000 is a long paper, and it's also good in that your message will be tighter and more effective if you force yourself to keep it to 10,000. A lot of times, the longer papers get a little rambling, and it just needs another few rounds of edits. So I don't want to read that, and you don't want to write it. So prepare that 8 to 10,000 masterpiece, and that will make everybody happy.
After we have selected the courses for which we are going to do the research paper, the other research papers we turn in for the other courses, how long?
Yeah, so you will see some courses say written assignments. Yeah, so that really varies. So some of these courses are very much practice oriented. So it might be something as simple as a 3-page memo to your fictitious supervisor about how you would advise about that issue. Some of it might be a little more like a mini research paper, and some of it might be a practice document. You might have to draft a complaint or a short judicial opinion on a topic or whatever. So it will vary. You always want to talk to your professor about exactly what their expectations are in terms of content, in terms of length, because if it's a series of shorter writing assignments, that adds up, and that might end up taking you as much time as a traditional research paper, which is okay. But
All of the ones that say research paper, it's an 8,000?
yes, yes.
Okay.
And then you'll see others that say writing assignments, which is different from a research paper. Still writing, but it's a different kind of writing. So yeah, ask us specific questions if you have it in mind. So it's for the benefit of the audience, they're probably thinking the same question if you have it.
No, I thought that you got to choose like for which, like I know there's various courses that have the research paper as evaluation,
Yes.
but I thought that only one of those had to be the 8,000 word research paper to
Oh,
fill
I see what you're saying. So if you're taking more than one course that says research paper, that's a good point. So you would only have to, I haven't done this in my classes yet, but I believe if you're not using it to fulfill the writing requirement, it can be shorter, 5,000 words maybe, but ask the professor what their standard is for that. But you're right, it wouldn't have to be that threshold that checks the box for writing requirements. So you could do 2 research papers. Tanya's thinking, oh, now my situation sounds better. You've got the 2 of us. I don't think either one of us will allow you to do that. I can tell you I won't. And for me, it's more of a fairness issue for grading. So if all of my students are writing 8 to 10,000 words for their papers, and I'm comparing them to Tanya who wrote 5, you're not going to come out looking very good. So it's unfair to you, it's unfair to them. Other professors think differently about that, and I'll leave that to Professor Gismondi if you're taking her class. But that's my concern about that, Tehani. You have to make sure that the professor agrees to that reality, that you don't have to write the 8,000 word paper. You can do a shorter one, but be clear about what that means for grade implications, because it worries me a little bit. I'm very much about level playing field in every aspect when I grade students, and I don't want any perceived or real disadvantage between students when they're getting graded.
The bad thing is that there's a lot of very interesting courses that are evaluated by research papers.
Right. Yeah. So talk to us about those, and we'll certainly encourage you to talk to that professor, and then perhaps report to us about what you're learning about their expectations as far as that goes. Because a lot of this, and this is why we like having these sessions, is that we learn more about how to best do this when we hear your feedback. So there have been a lot of things, a lot of issues that came to my attention like this that then we try to do a better job being clear about up front for everybody's sake. And so I'd be interested to hear what you learn about that.
Just wanted to ask how the grading system works in the research paper.
Yes, good question. First of all, it varies depending on who's grading you. So there is that variation. The safety net for students, though, is that all professors work on the same grading system. Some call it a curve. It's not really a curve. It's a grade standardization policy, which that means that the average